Arknights is a difficult game to talk about, mostly because my emulator won't run it, it keeps crashing, but outside of that, Arknights is a very, very good game. It's well-rounded, it has a wonderful aesthetic, nice music. Like, I don't think anyone can really complain about any of the Arknights soundtracks because every one of them is just, every track is good. Even the main menu when you're opening the app is great. Arknights has consistent quality, and it's something that I really enjoy. Anytime I do something or get a character or, go into Arknights, whether I'm playing and starting a new account, whether I'm hopping onto my old one, it doesn't necessarily matter. Arknights has consistent quality, and it makes it a really good, really well-rounded experience. No matter what, whether you go in as an older player or a new player, whether you're returning and haven't been back for a long time, I think you're gonna have a great time. I was testing out different gacha games, and mainly I focus on games like Arknights, Genshin Impact, and Blue Archive, but I have tested out Counter-Strike, I have tested out Art of Gear Fusion, I have tested out Honkai Impact, Punishing Grey Raven. I've even gotten into Fate Go. And overall, one of the things that I noticed that I think goes really unnoticed, or at least unmentioned, is just how well a consistent theme or a good design can go, and just how much it can do for a game. I think you can have a wonderful game, a great foundation, but if the menus, if the orientation and the presentation of it to you don't make sense or are very cluttered to the extent to where it seems unnecessary, then it kind of becomes an issue. Arknights has the lobby screen, and it presents everything to you in a very nice way. You have the voices of the character that you chose as your assistant, the one who sits on the screen with you, so you have something that you already like there because you chose them, and you can have them in different voice lines and different voice packs. It's really dependent on what you choose, and keep in mind they're adding more along the way, so your mileage may vary in that. I prefer the JP voice just because it's what I've gotten used to. And I don't think some of the AN voices are very nice, but hey, that's just personal opinion. Now, I think because the menu doesn't clutter anything up, even if you're going to the headhunting, which is essentially the summoning screen, it's very clean. It shows you the exact banner. Here are the characters on it. Here's the specific rate up ones. You usually have the recruitment, headhunting for the new individual unit, and then you have a second banner. But ignoring that, I think games like Epic 7 and games like Arknights that really give you a nice startup, and even Blue Archive to an extent, that if you're a new player and you join in, you get at minimum 10 pulls is great. Blue Archive gives you that first 10 pull, and then you have the power zenny you have left over. Arknights gives you that beginner banner in which the cost of summoning is reduced in half. And that's really good for picking up early units, not to mention the fact that Arknights gives you 2 different selectors for units. Now, me personally, I will always go with Lapland because Silver Ash comes home, but if I don't get Silver Ash, I'll probably go with him first. I go with Liskarm as well, and these are units that I can really use throughout the entirety of my account, and they're really valuable, and I think that's core as well. The units that Arknights is giving you the option to pick from aren't just bad units, they're not like meh and average and okay, they're really good, especially at higher investment. One of the core things that I like about Arknights, and that I find that I like about a lot of games, is that even if you build a unit that is subpar now, you are at some point going to need them. They are at some point valuable to your account. There isn't necessarily just a unit that you're probably going to build and then dump off to the side. I noticed this with Blue Archive as well, and it's one of the reasons I enjoy that. The games respect your time. You put investments, you put money, whether that's real money or just the gacha currency in game, into either getting these units or building these units. And because of that, the game really makes them all valuable to some extent. Don't get me wrong, there are units that you will build up and you may not use them now. You may not use them until later on, or you may use them at one specific stage, much later on, or in an event. But either way, the investment pays off to an extent. The investment is valuable. Some units have different skills. It's not a situation in which every unit can occupy the exact same niche. Instead, you have units that are really good at healing, or units that are casters, but some have AoE, some don't. Some are good at this, some are fast casters, some are low casters, and they can really vary depending on what you want. And you have casters that may heal in AoE as multiple individuals at once, or you may have them be single targets. You may also have them have a bonus or a skill which increases the effect of their healing over time, or increases the effect of their healing for one individual. And overall, it means that you can have a variety of units that are all medics, that are all casters, that are all snipers to a degree, and each and every one of them can do slightly different things to an extent to where you may want to bring one along for one situation in one stage as opposed to a different one. And it means that there is value in investing into multiple units. I don't think there's really a situation in which you just want to build 8 units or 10 units or even 12 units or whatever. I think there's a situation in which you can argue that every unit is valuable. And it's because of that that I think Arknights is perhaps one of the more approachable gacha games, because the game gives you a nice solid tutorial. It continuously introduces different concepts. Don't get me wrong, I have many times talked about the story of the game and how I don't like it, or how I don't like how it's presented, and that can remain the same, it can remain different. You can disagree with me on that aspect as well. But I think in terms of gameplay, in terms of presentation, in terms of the overall concept and quality of the game, Arknights is exceptional because it doesn't drop the ball. Arknights presents you a high bar early on, and it keeps up with that. And I think that because of that, it makes it really good to approach. It makes it really good to get into. Even if you maybe lost your old account, you can hop back into it and you will still have a relatively good experience. The gacha feels rewarding. Your first 10 pulls on a brand new banner are guaranteed to have something of higher rarity. And I think that really is undermined by a lot of individuals. Like, don't get me wrong, it's good. I've gotten some of the specific banner units that I didn't know if they were good or not, but I just have them sitting on my account now. I've gotten some units that I actually really wanted, and I don't think there's a situation in which you're going to go wrong just doing those first 10 pulls. You have the store, you have your base, you have missions, you have skins, which are purchasable with currency that you can actually earn. The game is free-to-play friendly. Don't get me wrong. You can spend money on it, and if you do, you might have a different time. Don't get me wrong. But that's true for every gacha game because it's a gacha game. But I think the fact that Arknights presents to you different currencies, the fact that Arknights gives you those selectors, the fact that Arknights constantly gives you the essentially wishing currency, whether that be in its basic form where you could just go straight to the mana and pull, or the Originite Prime, which you can then convert into the currency used to pull. Either way, it's great regardless. You have your essentially weekly annihilation stages. You have the events, which are consistent, they have high quality, they have great rewards too. Overall, the game rewards you for putting time into it, but it doesn't waste your time. If you're starting out, sure, you're gonna have a bunch of sanity left over, and the other stages may not be for you, but you have the opportunity, and I think that's incredibly important to mention. Arknights doesn't waste time explaining unnecessary concepts to you. Arknights doesn't waste time giving you bad units just because. Arknights doesn't feel like a time sink. You can put hours and hours into any gacha game, but the question is, after those hours spent, whether you spend 1 hour, whether you spend 4 hours, whatever, is that rewarded? If you push really hard into difficult content, does the game reward you for your time? It's the difficulty and the issue with Genshin Impact's Abyss. You can try for hours and hours on end to get the 9-star clear on the final floor, but the game doesn't necessarily reward you for that, because it's not like you can use your weekly currency of Abyss to in any way, shape, or form buy items that you can use for your characters, buy materials or ascension mats. You can just get not even a full pull. Whereas with Arknights, if you go into the game and you do the annihilation stage and you do clear really well, you do get rewarded. You can do a minimum 1 pull, and whether it's 1 pull, whether it's half 1 pull, whether it's multiple pulls, the games reward you all together. Arknights rewards you for your time. Blue Archive gives you currencies. Blue Archive gives you event rewards that you can use to buy materials to scale up your characters. Any way, shape, or form that if a game rewards you for actively investing time and effort into its concepts, into learning and building these characters, it's good. So in regards to Arknights in 2022, as an individual who started an Arknights account, as an individual who got into the game, I think it's well worth it. I don't think there's ever a time in which you can safely say it's too late to start Arknights. And I don't think there's ever a time and place in which you can say it is too late to return to Arknights. It's still a good game. It still has a high bar for quality, and I honestly wish more individual gachas would follow footsteps. I think if you can design a good menu theme, a good OST, good character designs, and get a solid style and aesthetic down to a point where you can look at a character and say, they're from Arknights, or they're from this gacha, then you have a nice set, you have a nice foundation. I don't think Arknights is the perfect gacha, but I think it's one of the closest gachas to perfect out there. And don't get me wrong, I have my issues with it, but the community, the guides, the fan base itself, whether you're talking about the art community or just the players in general, they're all extremely helpful. And I think it goes a long way to making Arknights into one of the most approachable gacha games, but also one of the most fun gacha games out there, because it rewards you not only just for investing time, but for learning. It requires you to think. It requires you to at least have some basic knowledge. I've had fun with it. I've had fun with the community. I've had fun playing the game. But I want to hear your thoughts as well. If you've had fun with Arknights, if you quit it, picked it back up, if you just have a different opinion, if you just want to share your experience, by all means, go right ahead. The comments are open to you. And either way, hope you enjoyed. If you did, leave a like, consider subscribing, and I hope to see you next time. Goodbye.